Hello everyone and welcome back to Mach 1 Mindset. Today we're diving into Silver Air Patrol Learn to Lead Chapter 9, Lesson 1, Officership. Now before we get started, please make sure you like, subscribe, and of course comment down below if you have any questions. Additionally, this comes from Volume 3 of Learn to Lead, pages 1 through 7, so feel free to follow along. Let's dive into it. Leadership can be more than just a job. For the most successful and fulfilled professionals, leadership is not just an occupation, it is a vocation, a calling that engages the heart, the mind, and the soul. When leadership becomes a vocation, it stops being about rank or authority and starts being about service, responsibility, and purpose. This idea lies at the center of officership. For cadet officers, that calling may take many forms. It could be continuous self-development. It could be service to the community. It could be mentoring younger cadets. In reality, it is usually all these challenges combined. Leadership is not a single role. It is a lifelong commitment to growth and service. To understand why leadership is viewed the way it is today, we need to first understand the history of the officer corps. For centuries, military officers were not professionals. They were aristocrats. Rank was determined by wealth, birth, and political influence. Children and incompetent individuals often held high command. There was no formal military education system. There was no shared professional standards, no expectation of expertise. Military leadership as a profession did not exist. Officers behaved like nobles rather than trained leaders. The idea that an officer should be a skilled expert, educated in strategy, tactics, and leadership simply had not developed yet. Armies functioned more as extensions of social class than as professional institutions. That changed in the late 18th century and the early 19th centuries. After the American and French revolutions, egalitarian ideas took hold. These revolutions challenged the belief that leadership should belong to a privileged few. Instead, the idea emerged that all individuals are equal in dignity and deserve equal opportunity. From this shift came the idea of meritocracy. In a meritocracy, merit rules. The most capable, disciplined, intelligent, and accomplished individuals rise to positions of leadership. Who your parents were no longer mattered. What mattered was what you could do. At the same time, warfare itself was changing. The Industrial Revolution transformed the battlefield. New technologies emerged, including rifled weapons, ironclad ships, railroads, and advanced artillery, landmines, and modern battlefield medicine. War became more technical, more complex, and more demanding. Military leaders realized that leadership could no longer be improvised. Officers had to be educated and trained. They had to understand technology, logistics, organization, and strategy. The idea that a random wealthy individual could command effectively became obsolete. Officers were no longer born, they were made. This combination of meritocracy and technological complexity gave birth to the modern officer corps. A Prussian decree in 1808 captured this new philosophy clearly. It declared that only qualifications for officership would be education and professional knowledge in times of peace, and courage and judgment in times of war. All class preference was abolished. The idea still defines officership today. In the United States, this philosophy is reflected in the service academies and commissioning programs. These institutions exist to develop officers based on merit, not birthright. They reinforce the idea that leadership is earned through discipline, education, and service. But education and training alone do not create officers. The Constitution itself establishes how officership begins. The President commissions all officers into the United States. Before receiving that commission, officers must swear an oath of office. The oath comes first, but because responsibility must always accompany authority. The oath is not a formality. It is a declaration of allegiance not to a person, but to the Constitution. Officers promise to support and defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Even the President's authority is limited by the Constitution. That is a critical distinction from the armies of the Old World, which swore loyalty to kings or generals. The commission that follows is a legal document granting authority to lead. It represents trust placed in the officer by the nation. Authority is not assumed, it is delegated. With the oath and commission comes obligation. Officers are bound by the code of conduct to guard the country and its way of life, even at the cost of their lives. This is why officership is just not a career. It is a profession of service. Today, officers enter service through many paths. Service academies, ROTC programs, officer training school, and direct appointments all contribute to the officer corps. What they share is a commitment to education, performance, and character. Modern officers are expected to be more physically strong or courageous. They must understand a complex global environment, advanced technology, and large organizations. Just as important, they must possess character strong enough to inspire trust and loyalty. Cadet officers, though not yet sworn in or commissioned, are preparing for the same vocation. They are learning what it means to lead ethically, to serve others, and to accept responsibility. That ideal is best captured in the story of Lieutenant Robert Mason Mathias. On the night of June 5, 1944, Mathias led the 2nd Platoon of E Company, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne. As his aircraft crossed the English Channel, German anti-aircraft fire tore through the sky. The men behind him were shouting, ready to jump. Mathias stood at the door, ready to lead. A shell burst, ripped through his reserve chute and into his chest, knocking him down. Gravely wounded, he struggled back to his feet as the green jump light turned on. He could have stepped aside. He could have allowed his crew to treat him and possibly save his life. His men later believed he must have considered it. Instead, Matthias raised his arm and shouted, "Follow me," and jumped. He died shortly after landing. He was the first American officer killed by German fire on D-Day. Matthias was respected because he had lived leadership. He trained relentlessly. He cared for his men. He never lowered standards, but he never abused authority. He prepared intellectually, physically, and morally for his responsibility. That is officership. Leadership as a vocation demands preparation, character, and sacrifice. It demands a willingness to serve others before you. Whether you're in uniform or a civilian life, that calling remains the same. Leadership is not a title you hold. It is a responsibility you live.